Recently, I've been having memories and flashbacks about times in my life that I acted in ways that were embarrassing, that were shameful, or that were just straight up inconsiderate. When I get those memories, it's not fun at all. It's definitely not fun. But I thought I was in a place in my journey where I had actually made peace with all of those things, made peace with the past version of myself and moved forward. And yet I still found myself in a position recently where I was still being plagued by these memories from time to time, and it was honestly eating away at me. So I figured I would do what I do best, which is analyze the shit out of it and make a podcast. So let's just get right into it. I'm here on my basement floor. There is something so comfortable and grounding about sitting here on my basement floor. I have my Moroccan mint tea. I got my notes. Okay, guys, I'm about to drop some bars on you today. So just to be clear, this episode is for anyone who is struggling with feelings of guilt, shame, embarrassment, etc. toward themselves or towards things that you've maybe done in the past. And if you find yourself in this position, the first thing that I really want to say is that this is a really, really good sign, okay? So you can take a deep breath. You're not a bad person. The simple fact that you are feeling bad for something that you did, no matter when it was, right? Just the fact that you were feeling bad, it means three things. Number one, it means that you recognize you were acting in ways that were hurtful or inconsiderate. That is self-awareness, okay? Number two, it means that those actions no longer align with who you are, which is growth. And number three, and this is the best part, now that you know better, you can actually be a better person overall. And these feelings are showing you that you actually do care about the well-being of the people around you. And that is transformation. If you're sitting in this guilt and you're sitting in this shame, what you'll notice in the theme of this episode is that those feelings of guilt and shame are a really good indicator and a really good compass for how we can move forward and continue to act in life. And they're maybe shining a light on something very important, but it's not healthy to, spiral and sit in those feelings forever. True self-awareness, it's a great quality to have. It really is. But it can also feel very crippling at times because the more layers that you uncover and the deeper you go, the more shit that you find that is maybe not the best and not the type of things that you want to see within yourself. We can't transform those parts if we don't have the courage to look at them first. And that's why I commend you, because if you're even still watching this episode, it means that there's something for you to learn here and that you're looking to grow beyond this feeling and to overall be a better person moving forward. I want to give you guys a random story time. It kind of ties into this episode, and there are some elements in this story that we'll unpack. Now, this is not a personal story. This is something that someone posted on Reddit. Take it with a grain of salt, but the reason that I chose this story to share, there's a lot to learn through the story, okay? So here's the story. There was this man, and he's the one who posted this whole story on Reddit, okay? But he cheated on his wife. The wife left him, as she should, and he actually ended up marrying the woman that he cheated on her with, okay? Let's call her Cherry, all right? And we'll call the wife's name Mary, and we'll call the guy Bob, just for the sake of this story. So Bob cheats on Mary with Cherry, right? Mary leaves, and he ends up getting married to Cherry. I realize that the names I chose are not very conducive and could be a little confusing, but that's okay. So as time passed, Bob realizes that the woman he married was extremely insecure, okay, and acting from a place of insecurity constantly, including crossing boundaries of their marriage or going out of her way to tear down his ex-wife, Mary. For instance, Mary, the ex, ended up meeting a new man who was very wealthy and well off, and she actually got married to that guy. And Cherry finds out about this, and she started talking a bunch of smack and was like, I don't know what he sees in her. I know he would rather have me, things like that. She was being really weird, right? And Bob is kind of like, why does this matter to you? This is my ex. We've moved on from that. Time has passed. Why are you so bothered by her life? And then Cherry actually went out of her way to send explicit photos of herself, to send nudes to Mary's new husband. So then Mary and her husband, they actually reached out to Bob and they let him know, like, hey, your wife is like sending nudes to, you know, whoever that guy is, like the new husband. And he confronted her about it, and she did admit it that she did that. Anyway, so I don't think this was an isolated event. I'm sure that if she was that insecure, there were plenty of moments in their marriage where she may have crossed boundaries before, or maybe just wasn't respecting other people, respecting the boundaries of their marriage. And granted, he obviously cheated on his ex-wife, so I can understand if you guys are like, Iman, they deserve each other. I get it, I hear you. But there's an element of growth that comes with this story. So in the Reddit post, Bob actually posted that after some self-reflection, he came to this conclusion and realized that he lived in so much guilt and shame from cheating on his wife that he kind of settled for a woman who was not respectful towards him because he felt like that's what he deserved because of the shitty thing that he did in the past. I am not one to judge someone else's soul growth journey, right? And I am not making excuses for him, by the way. If his ex left him because he cheated on her, that is so valid and so fair. And she was taking care of herself in that moment and had to leave because he did something that really violated the boundaries of their marriage. But rather than reflecting in the moment and understanding like where this came from, why he did that, and what led him to acting in such a way, and then working on, you know, rebuilding himself and forgiving himself and looking for a new, better life, he kind of sat with this emotion of like, I'm just a piece of shit. I did this shitty thing and I don't really deserve good things in my life. And so he ends up creating that cycle where he now marries a woman that treats him then, you know, with less respect and makes him feel honestly unworthy, right? But it's because he thinks that he's unworthy, and it's because he did something that was wrong, and he's defining himself by that thing that he did that was wrong. And here's the thing, like I said, I'm not making excuses for him. I'm not even defending it. I'm just saying that if you let every single shitty action that you've taken define who you are, you're going to continue to be that person. And then you're going to continue to actually act in those shitty ways. Like, wouldn't you rather want to just grow from this and become a better person? Maybe there are things that have happened in the past that are not so great, but it shouldn't define entirely who you are. It should actually just be a reason for you to dig deeper and understand yourself better so that you don't continue doing those things. The other point that I want to mention here is that his ex-wife never has to forgive him if she doesn't want to. That's her own issue. That's her own prerogative, right? But this man will absolutely never grow, and he will never learn if he doesn't learn how to forgive himself, see himself as innately worthy, and then transform the entire situation which he has allowed to define him. If you relate to this man, maybe you didn't specifically cheat on a partner, but maybe it's something else. Maybe you feel like you are someone who did something wrong, right? And you're struggling to grow past it, and you're struggling to see yourself as worthy of good things. I really want you to like perk your ears up for what I'm about to say, because these are the really important key points that we can pull from the story. So you need to find the balance between holding yourself accountable and giving yourself grace, okay? So the first thing I want to touch on is the accountability piece. If you did something wrong, I'm going to need you to just own it, all right? Stop making excuses for yourself. Although those excuses might seem valid sometimes, like, oh, for example, I hurt this person, but it's because of my childhood traumas. That might be valid to me, but it doesn't take away the impact that I've had on that other person, right? So realistically, when you reflect on these things, you feel bad about it for a reason. You got to learn how to own your shit and without making excuses for it when it comes to especially the impact you've had on others around you. Understanding what accountability feels like it's basically not giving yourself an excuse. It's telling yourself like, hey, I could have been better and I should have been better. The thing is, when we typically come to this conclusion, it's because we're finally coming to terms with or understanding the impact that we might have had on someone else. And this part is extremely important, because when you understand the true gravity and the true impact that you've had on people around you, it becomes a lot easier to become a more considerate person overall. Most of the time, we're not intentionally trying to hurt people. It's just through inconsideration. I'm not going out of my way to hurt your feelings, but I might have done something that didn't even consider your feelings to begin with, and that in itself can be hurtful. it doesn't mean that you purposefully, intently, or tried to do something wrong. It just means you didn't consider the other person and focused way too much on your needs, your desires, and your wants without really like opening up that lens to how that might be coming across to the people around you. And ultimately, you're not being mindful of how it might make other people feel. I've been in plenty of scenarios where maybe when this is brought to my attention, I, like many others, will say, well, I didn't mean to hurt your feelings. And that might be valid, but it'll only take you so far in life. A little bit of consideration can really go a long way. If you feel bad about something from the past, it just means that you're finally understanding the impact that you've had on people. This is a really, really good sign. And holding yourself accountable looks like, hey, I never want to do that again. I don't want to hurt the people around me ever again. So I'm not going to do it. This is where the second part comes in, which is mastering the art of grace. Because if you are constantly and only thinking about impact, you might get into a place where you just start beating yourself up rather than holding yourself accountable. There's a difference. And in that type of scenario, what you will need to do is shine that solo light on yourself and really dig into like the actions that you've had and why you acted in such a way, right? When you sit around and when you beat yourself up and you're like, I just suck, I'm just a piece of shit, etc., you're not helping anyone, including the people that you hurt in the past. You can't rewind time. You can't undo what you did. But what you can do is create a better future for yourself because you're worthy of it. Beating yourself up, it doesn't help you. It doesn't help anyone that you've hurt, and it certainly will not help anyone in the future, anyone new that comes into your life. But this one is more for yourself, right? So the accountability piece is more focused on other people and how you're showing up. The grace piece is more focused on you giving yourself grace and being able to understand why you did a certain thing, because that's how you're going to make peace with it. I find that people kind of mix these things up where they're expecting grace from other people all the time. And I don't think that's your decision, right? Like if I do something wrong and I apologize for it and the person on the other side doesn't want to give me grace, that's their decision. The only thing I can do is hold myself accountable to them and let them know that I'm genuinely sorry, genuinely am feeling remorse, but it's on me to give myself grace. There is something actually I wanted to share with you guys, and this is a journal entry that I made not too long ago. It's when I was feeling really down about myself and I was like feeling really ashamed and disgusted about some of the actions from my past when it was plaguing me. And so I'm going to just share something that I wrote because I decided that I was going to reframe the way that I was viewing that version of me, okay? Rather than thinking she was so shameful, she was so embarrassing, she was so disgusting, she was so inconsiderate, she was so this and that. If I'm going to focus on that, then I also owe it to her to focus on the things that she was really good at and the things that made her a really beautiful person, because she is a whole person, right? She's not only the shitty side, she's also the good sides. And so I literally wrote, I wrote that, and this was in regard to the past version of myself. I said, I'm happy to leave her behind there, but more than anything, I should show her the love, the care, and the forgiveness and the non-judgment that she deserves. I love and honor her because she's the one that did the work to become me. And she was loving. She was so pure. She was open-hearted and naive. She wasn't judgy. She was free-spirited. She was well-intentioned. She was so fun and very forgiving. She deserved better. She wanted more for herself, always. She was doing her best. She was just scared of rejection. She learned from her mistakes. She was abandoning herself, and she deserved so much more. So these are the things that I wrote about the version of me that I was honestly not proud of when I reflected. I had to remember that she's just a whole person, and there's so many beautiful aspects to her as well. And again, she did the work to become me, so I can't hate her, because if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be me today. And I really am proud and I love the person that I am today, right? But it takes all of those instances and, falling and failing to really learn and grow. The unfortunate part is sometimes other people get caught in that crossfire, and that's not necessarily fair to those people. But in the moment, you're just doing what you know best. And like I've said 100 times, now that you know better, you can be better. Beating yourself up, it's not going to help you. And ignoring the whole situation, making excuses up either, is also not going to help you, and is actually, frankly, unfair to the people you may have hurt in the process. So the third point I have in case here is actually in regard to other people. Don't make excuses for other people or for shitty things just because you've done shitty things, okay? So I kind of went through a phase like this too, kind of like the man in the story, right? Where maybe I let things slide because I felt like I deserved it, and that's bullshit. That's the kind of mentality that will keep you stuck. That's what will stop your growth, and that's what will keep you hurting. And we all know this, hurt people hurt people. So the truth is, I don't want to hurt people, which means I also shouldn't hurt myself or give others a free pass at hurting me. I have to be firm in my boundaries. I have to advocate for myself when necessary. And the other crazy thing is, when you stop making up excuses for someone else, ultimately you're not making excuses for yourself anymore, and your past self as well. When you can hold other people accountable, it's because you're also able to hold yourself accountable. But like I said, grace is also a part of this. If you can't give grace to other people, you won't be able to give grace to yourself. And does that mean taking shit and being a doormat? Absolutely not. What it means is holding other people accountable, holding your boundaries, while also being graceful, which means not being petty, letting that person, the other person, experience their growth journey without holding a grudge against them forever, which might also mean letting them go from your life if that's the only way you're able to be graceful about it. But shitting on them, harping on them, holding grudges, like, it's not gonna serve you or their growth, like, at all. That's just my 2 cents, and I know a lot of people don't want to hear that. But again, the way we react and treat the world around us is really a reflection of how we're treating ourselves. So that inability to give grace or forgiveness to other people, it reflects an inability to do that for yourself. And I think a lot of people who have that inability actually don't even look deep enough to see the parts of themselves that need that grace and forgiveness. Maybe they don't even want to look, and hey, look, you do you. But I think if we really want ultimate growth and transformation in this human journey, we owe it to ourselves to really look at our shadows and to transform them. But holding on to that pain of the past when those feelings are long expired, or when that situation is long expired, is not helping anyone, and it's certainly not helping yourself. And here's the most important thing. I've also mentioned this in another episode. I actually have a tattoo right here that says undefined, okay? And the reason that I have this tattoo is because it's a reminder to me that these events of my life, they don't define who I am, right? Because I have the power to create and to change that. And if you stop defining yourself by the events of this unique journey that you're on, you're gonna be able to own your shit without beating yourself up. Obviously, when you feel genuinely bad, it's not such a matter-of-fact process. It will be probably more emotional. These feelings are here to act as a compass so that you can learn from them and grow from the pattern. And again, that raw shame, guilt, embarrassment, it's not a good vibration or feeling to sit in forever. It's not productive. If you want to be a better person, though, if you want to be a good person, the best version of yourself that you can possibly be, it is worth it to look at those feelings every once in a while when they are knocking at your door. The very, very last thing that I think is so important to touch on is seeking forgiveness from the people that you've hurt. And this is not as straightforward as it may seem, okay? The idea of seeking forgiveness from someone you may have hurt, it's an opportunity and a luxury that you might have, but you can't expect that it's always going to go the right way, or that it's going to go perfectly, or that it honestly even is the right thing to do. Here's the thing. Oftentimes, and as unfortunate as it is, I'm in a scenario where I might feel really hurt by someone's actions, and then I remember a time when I might have done something similar to someone else. Except that thing might have been a really long time ago. It might have been years ago. Maybe that person has forgotten about it. Maybe an apology to them would be an amazing and great experience and great closure for them, right? Or maybe it's inappropriate to bother them with something that they might have already found peace from, right? Or maybe you did something behind their back that they're better off not knowing. See, there's so many ways this could go. You're the one that's going to have to discern this for yourself. On one hand, it really takes guts to look at someone in the eye and to own your shit. On another hand, you might be doing more harm than good, especially because you might just be looking for a green light. It's really hard to sit with things that you may have done before. And if the person you hurt says it's okay, you will feel soothed. And that's a luxury that you're getting. You're getting that luxury of feeling good and okay with your actions and feeling like everybody's okay with them, right? But they might not be. That's their own prerogative. That's their own decision. You can't force that outcome. Maybe the remorse that you're feeling and that you're sitting with is the lesson here. Because if you're genuinely remorseful and you feel bad about something, and that might be almost the karma in a way, now you have to sit with this feeling. It's not for that other person to manage and deal with. And again, you use your discernment. An apology, I would say, is great, but it really depends on the scenario, and it really depends on whether it's worth, reawakening something. You have to work on redefining who you are, right? Not sitting in remorse forever. What I personally find to be very useful, again, this is very personal to me and very personal to my journey. This might not be helpful for everyone, okay? But personally, my relationship with God is very helpful when it comes to this. I truly believe in the power of prayer, and I truly believe in God. And this part of the message is not for everyone. But when I turn to God and when I turn to prayer in times like this, I feel genuinely lighter and I get the solace that I'm looking for, right? Because I end up praying for the other person's well-being as well. And I'm seeking forgiveness from a higher power. And I'm recognizing that these are ways in which I no longer want to act in. And if you don't believe in God, that's okay. Like if you are spiritual and you believe in the universe, there are so many powerful meditative practices that you can use to do this as well. And if you're someone who's like, listen, I don't believe any of that stuff, religion, spirituality, etc., I would recommend, like, there's also professional help that you can seek out that is not religious or spiritual in nature, but that could also be very helpful in learning how to forgive yourself and finding that solace that you're looking for. Because sometimes the person that you hurt, they're not going to be able to provide you with that, right? And sometimes they shouldn't be the one to provide you with that. And another really, really, really key important point to note here is that if you are this person, you're religious, you believe in God, if you do practice or take part in any sort of rituals or prayers through which you are being forgiven, the key here is to actually feel genuine remorse. When you genuinely feel sorry and you're genuinely, sincerely like turning to God to help not only you, but the people that you might have hurt, that's where you'll start to feel lighter and you'll start to see real change, right? It's not like you can just go, confess everything and say, okay, glad I got that off my chest. Now I'm going to continue to act in these ways and not really be reflective. That's not why these prayers and rituals are there. They're not there to just give you a free pass. And this is for those people that are really sitting in these heavy feelings and don't know how to feel a little bit lighter in life. But the ultimate thing that I want you guys to remember is that you're deserving of forgiveness, right? You are innately worthy. That's why you're here in this world, because you are worth something, my dear. You are. I hope that you've realized through this episode that when you start to view yourself as worthy, you then start to become this beacon of light and become this beautiful source of energy to the people around you. So maybe it's time to shift our focus onto the future and to think about how to be better for the people around us. Really provide this sense of light and love and care to everyone around us rather than hurting them. And I want to close off by saying one thing. You might be a villain in someone's story, but a hero in someone else's. The same way that the villains in your story might be the heroes in someone else's. And the same way that you're entitled to feeling how you feel about the villains in your story, people are entitled to feel the way that they feel about you. Life is not as black and white as it may seem, okay? And people, including us ourselves, we are not as black and white as we may seem or as we may want to, paint ourselves out to be. Everybody's soul experiences growth at a different pace. And our only prerogative in this world is to hold ourselves accountable for our own actions, okay? To dig deeper within to understand how we can show up better for ourselves and for the people around us. And that also includes standing firm on our boundaries, what we're willing to accept, and advocating for ourselves when necessary, because we are worthy of good and loving interactions in this world. That's pretty much all I have for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed this episode on my lovely basement floor. I love filming here, and I will catch you guys next time in my love letter to the world. All right, bye.